Hello, welcome to another episode of Fill the Screens podcast. Today we'll be talking about Smile 2. I have been wanting to watch this movie for quite a long time, and finally, I had a chance to watch it. I love the first Smile movie. It made a killing in the box office, but the first movie was such a just haunting, very well done, used practical effects. They knocked it out of the park. And then they came out with this one, and to be honest, when I first saw the trailer to Smile 2, I thought it was Lady Gaga playing the main role, and I was like, no way. But it wasn't. But it was still a cool idea, having a pop star, getting the curse. You want to see how that goes down. So I was just absolutely thrilled to watch this, and it just seemed like the stars were not aligning. I just could not find the right time. I had a friend who wanted to watch it with me. We couldn't get our schedules to match. We couldn't get it done in theater, but finally, with it being in streaming, we got a chance, and we watched it. And I will tell you, after watching this movie, I felt very conflicted. Conflicted after watching this movie. We're going to get into spoilers with this review, and we're going to just jump right into it. So, if you haven't seen it, maybe come back later when you have seen it. If you have seen it, stay tuned. So, this is your warning, spoilers are going to happen. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I liked. One thing that I did like right from the beginning of the film, it starts with Joel from the first movie. When the main character passes the curse on to him, this movie takes off 6 days later, and you see Joel, he's trying to use his resources as a cop, and he tries to break the loop by going to a drug dealer's house, killing a guy in front of a witness, therefore passing the curse on to the witness, and he's able to live. It breaks the loop. Which I was like, I wonder if we are ever going to see that go down. Will someone in the franchise ever go that route? Will we see the curse be broken? And Joel actually did it. He did it by an accident because his plan didn't go right. And a small-time drug dealer, he actually sees the accidental murder happen. So the curse does pass to the small-time drug dealer, not as Joel intended. But the curse did technically leave Joel. So that was, we're breaking new ground right from the get-go. That was nice to see. But unfortunately for Joel, he runs out of the house and he gets hit by a car. Some people think that's part of the curse itself, but I kind of think it's just bad luck on Joel's part. Even though it was cool whenever the car hit him, it smeared blood into a smile shape. So again, I really liked the beginning. Like it was really cruel. It was really mean-spirited, which I feel like these movies are. So right when I was getting started with killing Joel like that, even though he broke the curse, I was like, okay, we're in for a good time here. Like I can't wait. Another thing I liked is whenever the small-time drug dealer passed the curse on to Sky Riley, who is the main character, the pop star. I was really worried when I seen the little part in the trailer kind of indicating that that's how it's going to happen when he's holding the weight. I don't know, in the trailer, like it just shows him holding that gigantic weight. Whenever he brings it up to his head, I swear it makes that like brr sound. And I was almost worried they were going to have him like slam his head against the weight like 1,000 miles per hour, like sometimes possession movies do. And I'm like, man, I really hope that's not going to be like a hokey kill, like where he's just like pounding his head repeatedly on the weight. I don't know, I just felt like that wouldn't work. But they actually did it really well. He like slammed his face on the weight like really slowly. Like he pulled the weight away slowly. But like his face was just like deteriorating each time he hit his face on the weight. I thought it was really effective. He's smiling the entire time. By the end, he looks like a bloody jack-o'-lantern. I really liked that kill where the curse goes to our main character. I thought that was pretty well done. The whole beginning of it I really liked. I was like, man, like we are going places. I was thrilled with the beginning. I thought it was awesome. So yeah, really good on that kill as well. Some other things I liked in this movie, the production was really well done. Whenever Sky would do a song or, they're rehearsing a dance routine for a song, I enjoyed all those little bits. They were original songs, I believe. Naomi Scott. She actually made a little mini album on Spotify you can look up. Look up Sky Riley. There's 6 different songs, all by her, and they're pretty catchy. They kind of remind me of Lady Gaga. Again, Lady Gaga. That's just what this whole thing reminds me of. Even though some of the songs might not seem Lady Gaga-ish, if that's even a thing. But I mean, they're poppy. So what am I talking about? Lady Gaga's pop. So yeah, like they're good. Look it up if you haven't, because they are good songs and you might like them. But I mean, in this movie, every time she performs, like things are bright. The backup dancers, like the dancing's good. There's even a part to where there's a scare, and like I kind of wish they would have continued a little more with the music. I was getting into it, and to bridge the music. The next thing I will say that I liked a lot is Naomi Scott. She absolutely killed it in this film. As far as acting goes, singing goes, performing, whether she's dancing, whatever. She just completely ruled in this movie. Every reaction that she had, yeah, she did phenomenal. As far as acting goes, no matter what griefs you have with this movie, Naomi Scott did absolutely awesome, and she deserves lots of other roles. I believe she was in the old Power Rangers movie, the kind of like reboot that happened, which I think is kind of an underrated movie in itself. I think she played Kimberly, the pink Power Ranger. I used to love Power Rangers as a kid, so whenever that came out, I was like, oh, I gotta see it, even though it's kind of technically for kids, but whatever, don't judge. Another good thing in this movie, there are some pretty good scares in here. There's a guy named Alfredo, and Sky Riley's doing like meet and greets with fans, and like there's a typical fans. There's girls crying, and then this dude approaches her, and he has blood on his face. And in my head, I'm like, what is her security doing? They just let this dude with blood on his face like go up to her, and like the dude's being weird like immediately. I think he said like I want to wear your skin, and eventually they like pull him away, and they're like, okay, Sky, you good? You ready to go back out and meet your fans? And she's like, I guess. Like they didn't really care. But like later on, she has like this hallucination where like she looks down the hall, and in her room is Alfredo just standing there naked, and he like takes off running after her, and like it, man, that is like the creepiest scene. Like anytime there's you include nakedness, I don't know, like it's just uncomfortable. And Alfredo was already uncomfortable at the meet and greet. Sky had a little more than she bargained for then, so him showing up at her house naked, I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, I would not want to meet Alfredo that way. But yeah, Alfredo did a good job making things uncomfortable, so kudos to him. There's also a lot of good jump scares in this movie, which there were some in the first one. There's a lot more in this one, which I'm going to kind of talk about later because that's not always a great thing, but there were some good ones. And I will also say, as far as scares go, towards the end of the movie, Sky kind of meets like the evil version of herself, and she kind of like squares off, like it's all part of this hallucination. But the evil Sky, also played by Naomi Scott, really well done. I kind of wish they would have did that a little more further before they went into another area. But yeah, that little square off scene where they're in the dark little Pizza Hut freezer room, and they're going back and forth, and she's trying to defeat the evil version of herself. That was pretty good stuff there. Another thing that I will say that is good, I kind of talked about production. But there's a lot of single shot scenes, and also sound design was very good. In the beginning, they do a little thing to where the movie is very quiet, and then it kind of cuts to them getting into a limo, and you can hear the fans screaming, but the way they're screaming, it's almost just jarring, and it makes you like flinch a little bit, like you think something's gonna happen. They mess with sound a lot, and that's pretty cool the way they do that also. And also, while I'm talking about good things, let's just advertisement. When they have these random actors and actresses go to like baseball games and stuff to draw fans to see their movies. The Smile franchise knocks it out of the park. They did it with the first one. They did it again with this one. And I love that stuff. They need to continue that stuff as they make these movies, because it does make me interested. Even if I would have hated this movie, If they would have continued that little gimmick, I probably would have came out for the next one anyway. So, good stuff there. So the advertisement, the Spotify account where Sky Riley, you can listen to 6 different songs. That's really cool stuff that they're just doing outside of the movie, and I really do appreciate that. That we need more stuff like that. All right, let's jump into the negatives now. Now, this negative is going to go hand in hand with the positive that I gave earlier. I said there was some good jump scares. There's a lot of jump scares in this movie. And one of the things that I loved about the first smile was able to set like this atmosphere that just created this nonstop dread. I feel like this movie didn't do that as well. Don't get me wrong, there's parts that I dreaded. I mean, Sky Riley, she gets absolutely tortured in this film, but I feel like just the dread was not as strong in this film. The atmosphere didn't feel as dark. Just a lot of the jump scares, you almost kind of just expected them to happen, like just long, lingering shots, and then like a character just appears out of nowhere smiling, going, ah! It happened a lot. Some of the scares fell flat. One of the scares that I did not feel was very effective was the one, I mean, you see it in the trailer where there's like a ton of her like fans and a bunch of people like pursuing her, all smiling, and they're like going down that crowded hallway and they're like rubbing walls. Whenever this scene happened in the movie, I actually started laughing. And when I saw it in the trailer, I was like, "Oh my god, that's gonna be terrifying when that scene happens." But for whatever reason, when I was watching it, it just did not feel very scary to me. The goofy looks on all their faces, which, the whole smile concept, like, you got to be careful with it because sometimes it can look goofy. And there were some people in this movie that I feel like them trying to do the possessed smile, they didn't do it that well. And in these groups of people, when there's just like 50 people in a hallway, like rubbing against each other, all smiling with their eyes wide, I mean, it looks goofy. Like, it's just not very scary to me. Towards the end of that scene, whenever they're like hunting her down in the corner and they're like crawling on the furniture, it started to kind of get more in that creepy feel again. But for the most part, I was laughing at the scene. Them like shoving like an arm down her throat. I was like, what in the world? Like, what are they doing? Yeah, just some of the scares, they just didn't feel as scary as like the first smile to me. I mean, the first smile, it is a high bar to hit. But I mean, like, I was kind of expecting, to be legitly creeped out like I was when I watched the first one. Another negative is, even though Naomi Scott, she knocked it out of the park, she did a fantastic job acting. She did everything she could that they asked her to. But the writing of her character, Sky Riley, I mean, she literally took the steering wheel and wrecked the car on purpose and killed her boyfriend. Like, I think you're supposed to feel bad for her, but like after you watch that scene, it's like, man, like I get it, like your boyfriend was abusive and he's like screaming and stuff, but you were screaming too. Like, both of you were like fueled up on drugs, and like, like you kind of get like the spoiled Hollywood diva vibes from like both of them. Like, they're just like a young couple that just, they're on too much drugs, they have too much money, they have too much fame, they don't care about anything, they hate each other. Then they get into an argument, and then she like grabs the steering wheel while he's like going like 90 miles per hour screaming, and they like wreck the car completely, and she ends up killing him. And like, we're supposed to feel bad about these withdrawals that she has. That's kind of like, well, you like brought this whole thing on yourself. Like, yeah, like people do like self-harm and stuff, but you make a decision that bad, and we're watching a movie here. Like, this isn't really a real person, but it's kind of hard to relate to her. It's like, I've done a lot of dumb stuff, but I've never grabbed a steering wheel and wrecked someone's car on purpose. And I don't plan on doing that. I hope I never do. That would be very bad. But yeah, like, when she does that, it's kind of like, like, like you're kind of an awful person. And there's not a whole lot. It would be one thing if we got that scene and there was like some moral redemption arc where she's like helping out other people, or like she has like this big goal. Like, what, I screwed up in the past and I'm trying to like help other people. But you don't really like see that. Like, she's just like kind of living her pop star life until like this big thing happens. And she's like, haunted by this curse. I mean, her poor assistant, like, she completely just goes off on him and like drops f-bombs on him and everything, and then like 10 minutes later he's like, here's a sweatshirt, Sky, I hope you feel better. And like, I don't know, like it's hard to feel bad for a character. So I mean, like, jumping from the first one to this one, the character in the first movie, you like a lot. She went through trauma. She had a mistake when she was a little kid. Her career is now her trying to get redemption, help other people. You feel for her. You really hope she lives. And her character here, it's kind of like she's kind of bitchy. I don't know. Another negative that I had about this film is they used hallucinations way too much. And it's cool when you do it right. The first movie did it right. Every time it happened, I just didn't see it coming. And they would do it like just kind of very subtly. The part to where she like goes to see like her therapist, and then she gets a call from her therapist, so she's not really there, and it's really the entity like haunting her. That was good stuff. This movie, it pulls the hallucination like a lot. A point to where, like, as you're getting towards the end of the film, you're like, I don't even know if this person she's talking to is even real. And then, like, they're not. And usually you're right. And you're like, okay, I feel like I can't really trust where this movie's taking me. And I know it's trying to do, like, this, like, weird, chaotic type atmosphere. And that'll work for some people. But for me, I'm just kind of like, man, like, I wish some of this stuff would just kind of quit. And like, what I mean by that is like, you like get to the end, and like you find out that like her girlfriend was fake. You find out this dude trying to help her was fake. And then you find out like a gigantic portion of the second half of the movie is fake. So like most of the stuff you watch, you're not even sure if it even happened. I mean, I know that's part of the artistic thing of like, ooh, the viewer decides. But it's like, no, I want some like solid concrete story. Like, you can do that a little bit. But I mean, you got to give us something firm to stand on somewhat. Like, if you're getting like a perfect example would be like the ending of The Thing. The ending is kind of like up in the air. Who's really the alien? I don't know. That's kind of fun to do, but it's only one little small part of the story. This one, like, there's a gigantic window of stuff that just didn't even happen, and you don't even know if it does or not, because then you just like go to the end. Like, I mean, really, you could say like really only the first 20 minutes happened, and then you could just cut to like the final 10 minutes, and it's like, okay, she commits suicide in front of a crowd and spreads it to everyone. The end. There's just too many hallucinations. I didn't really care for it. I kind of also felt like they used the entity's voice a little too much. I don't know, it didn't feel as effective than it did in the first film. The part where Gemma's like driving her car, and she gets like the phone call from Gemma like while Gemma's driving the car, and she like looks at Gemma, and Gemma's doing the smile, and it's like, I hate you, no one likes you. Maybe that's not exactly the words. But I don't know, I really wasn't buying what the entity was saying, and she's like, I gotta take control, and like then she's driving the car. I don't know, I didn't really care for that scene. And like her Gemma, the one who was possessed, I feel like she was one of the actresses that couldn't really pull off the smile to look creepy. Like, it looked like too much like a natural smile. I feel like these movies got to be careful to not bring in people with too attractive of a smile. Like if someone just has a beautiful smile and they're supposed to be like possessed, but they just look like they're like just a pretty person smiling for a long time. That could not work. And I kind of felt like that way about Gemma. Like, she had a nice smile, and that's a compliment to her as a person. But like while she's smiling, doing the little look, I didn't really feel scared of it. I was kind of like, oh, like she's possessed. Okay. I don't know. It's a weird thing to complain about. Too good of a smile, but I do think that could be a thing. I even felt like that. I felt that way about the main character of the first one too. I was like, when she finally gets like possessed, like she tries to do the possessed smile, and it's like, she's too pretty to do it. She's not scary enough. Weird complaint, I know. Now, there are some things that are like kind of in the middle ground. I thought it was cool that we got Jack Nicholson's son in this movie. It's a fun little tidbit there, because it just feels like Jack Nicholson should be in a Smile movie. Another cool thing is the idea of the ending. When she does, she like puts the microphone into her head in front of the crowd, and spreads the curse to like everyone at her concert. You know it's coming. It is predictable, but you do have to go there. If you don't go there, like, what are you gonna do? I saw some people reviewing it and they're like, "Oh, I saw the ending coming a mile away." Yeah, we all did. That's why we wanted to see the movie. We wanted to see how they got there. The idea was cool. I didn't really care for the pan away to the crowd and it showing them go like, "Whoa, oh!" Like some of them like shielding their eyes, and then it just shows the microphone in her head. I don't know about how they executed it, but I do appreciate the idea. It is bold, and these movies should be bold. The creature itself, I felt like wasn't as effective as it was in the first movie. In the first movie where the main character's in the house and when it shows the creature, it's just like gigantic in a small room. And this one, like it shows it like on its legs, and it almost looked like kind of like a Pokemon a little bit. It wasn't as scary. And again, I felt like it wasn't as effective as the first movie. Okay. I kind of listed a bunch of pros, and then I listed a bunch of cons, and then I said some mixed things. Just like overall, like whenever I say this, whenever I say I'm conflicted, it doesn't mean I hate this movie. It is a fun movie. There's a lot that happens. There's kind of a lot to it. And if this movie wasn't called Smile 2, if this movie was called Pop Stars Die Tonight, people would be like, "Oh, it was a pretty good movie. Like, it's pretty crazy." Yeah, because it is a crazy movie. It is pretty violent. They do some crazy things here. They have good jump scares. But there's also a lot of bad in the movie. There's a lot of things I didn't like, which kind of surprised me. Like, I was very amped for this movie, and man, I've said it in a lot of episodes. Hype can kill a movie. And whenever I was done, I felt like it did kind of kill it for me. But then, like, I had to kind of think back, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't that bad. I need to settle down. Because, overall, when I watched the first Smile, like, I would say that movie's probably like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. And when I got done with this one, I was like, it's probably like a 6 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10 if I'm being generous. That's just kind of how I feel it. And if you get a 6 or 7 out of 10, that's not bad. It's not super fantastic. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not bad. It's a good movie. It's entertaining, and it has some like scary stuff in it. And that's exactly what this movie is to me. So yeah, this is me talking about Smile 2. Like I waiting so long for it, and it just didn't quite satisfy it. Now, granted, they're talking about a third one, and I will be watching the third one. I do very much enjoy this franchise. I appreciate like what it does. The mean spiritedness of it. It always kind of just makes you nervous when you go to see it because you don't know what they're gonna bring out. So yeah, I look forward to that. I look forward to their advertisement gimmicks. Again, awesome stuff. And I'm excited to see what ideas they have next, because this was a cool idea to do a pop star angle. I did like the idea in itself. So yeah, this has been my review for Smile 2. Feel free to like this episode to get it out to other people. If you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. And if you're still listening, I appreciate you guys listening so much. It is cool to have people comment, interact and all that stuff. I appreciate you guys for being here and listening when you do. Again, it was fun. It was fun. I was a little disappointed, but it's still fun. And I can't wait to see what we watch next. So until next time.